Hi, this is Steve. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another fantastic installment of the Agora models. Build the British SAS Willys Jeep. Now I am working on pack 2, and I invite you to join me in this video. If you haven't done so already, head over to Agora Models and subscribe to this build today. It's active. Sign up today before it's too late. It's a fantastic Willys Jeep from the North African Campaign. Special Forces, Special Air Service, British troops operated these Jeeps in theater, and it's a fantastic kit. Let's get started. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another Agora Models build. This time it is pack 2 of the British SAS Willys Jeep. I'll be assembling 8 more stages, stage 6 through 13, and fantastic build here. If you haven't done so already, head over to agoramodels.com and subscribe to this build today. It's actively available from Agora Models, and you'll be very pleased with this very specialized Jeep used in World War II in the South African or the North African campaign of the deserts there. So let's go ahead and show you all the parts that came with this pack. And they are kind of just thrown along here. I'll remove them as I go. So stage 11 is working on the engine. Those are the parts there, but I do see a bell housing for the transmission. Stage 7, again, more parts for the engine. So it looks like we have the alternator here, filters, and we do have the, looks like the steering column. And stage 8, more parts for the engine. We have the fan, exhaust pipe, some pulleys, and stage 9 is the chassis, and that's this box right here, and I will show you that as we go along in the video. Stage 10 are the bumperettes, and looks like the straps for the jerry cans. Stage 11 looks like more frame parts, parts for the chassis itself. Stage 12, we have the springs, and stage 13, more springs. All right, let's get started on stage 6. Here's parts pack number 6, and this is building the engine part 3. Here's all the parts inside. I'll go ahead and take these out. We'll get a closer look. So we have AP and DM screws. We have the gearbox. We have the starter. This right there. We have the oil pump, which is this right here. Fuel pump, fuel tubes. We have carburetor support, carburetor body and ring. There you go. The gearbox is the only item that is made of metal. And the first thing I'll be doing is building the carburetor body with this. So little bit of an assembly here going on. There's a little flange that goes up above on top, just like that. And then we'll go ahead and take and mount this down on the base of the carburetor. You can see there's a alignment pin and a hole where the screw will go into. So we're going to put an AP screw into this on the bottom side here. And that's what that looks like there. Okay. Next goes the carburetor regulator. And it looks like a regulator that I'm used to seeing on other carburetors. Looks great. Go ahead and just press fits in place here. Just like that. And that's what that looks like. And we'll go ahead and mount that to the engine next. So bring over the engine, and on top of the intake manifold we'll mount this carburetor. So it's basically going to go down just like that with the connectors outward just like that. And we're going to put 2 AP screws to hold that in place. Okay, so I got both AP screws installed loosely, and you don't want to over tighten them, just till they're snug so you don't split the plastic. And that's good there. And that's what that looks like. And next we'll assemble the fuel pump assembly, and that's going to go on like that. And just like that. So we want to have this part here that's sticking out on that side of the bracket. Okay. Bring over the engine. And okay, so we'll take the fuel pump. You can see how it's positioned on there. We have an alignment pin. We'll put that on there. And then we're going to take a DM screw, which is made from metal, and put a DM screw into that. And the DM screw is installed and tight. Used a little bit of 3-in-1 oil to help it along. That's how that looks. Next I'm going to install the oil pump. So the next part here, that's what this is right here. That's your oil pump, and that's going to go up against the engine just like that. And a DM screw will go into that also. There we go. Now it's nice and tight. Don't want to over tighten it because you could split the plastic on that fuel pump. So just be very careful with that. Or the oil, I'm sorry, that's the oil pump. Okay. Next we'll install the starter on the bell housing. And here's our bell housing. And the starter goes on next, just like that. And again, we'll be using AP screw because it's plastic. And that's tight. That's how that looks there. Alright, we'll fit the bell housing to the engine. We want the starter on the right hand side, and it's simply just going to snap in place on the back end, just like that. We're going to put 2 DM screws in, one on each side. The bell housing is installed with the 2 DM screws, and they are tight, one on each side. So with this kit they just give you the single fuel line, and we need to cut it into 2 pieces. We need a 7.5 centimeter or 5 centimeter. Now, what I've done in the past is I've cut them long enough to where they look like they're the right fit for where it's going to. Okay, and so you don't want them too long, right? You want them to look like they're made for that area. So I don't care much about the length. I'm going to measure visually, and then I'll tell you what the length is. So we're going to be installing two lines, one shorter than the other. One gets mounted on the side of the engine block and runs over to this connector on the bottom side of the fuel pump, or the bottom side of the carburetor, and then the fuel pump line runs up to the top. So you don't want those too long. So you put one in here and run it up to there, so it doesn't look like it needs to be too long there. So I'll cut it. And then the other one goes from the fuel pump and we have extra. Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and measure these and tell you what I got for lengths before I install them. I'm going to measure them in millimeter. So the shorter one should be around 3 millimeter, but I went a little bit longer than 3 millimeter. They tell you 3 millimeter for the one and 4 millimeter for the other on the other instructions I have. So I probably can do that. Let me see here. .94 or 69.4 for the longer one. All right. Close-up view of the shorter hose, and now the longer one. There we go. And that should be good there. I didn't want those fuel lines to stick up too high, so it's just kind of a visual measurement on your own, and that's how it will look. And that completes stage 6. Looks great. Let's get started on stage 7. And here's the parts for stage 7, which are the engine parts. Engine build part 4. Let's get a closer look at these parts. Alright, here's a close-up of the parts. We have AM, BP, and DM screws. We also get all the parts here, like I was saying earlier. Oil filling pipe, the oil cap, a couple of supports, a tube, oil filter body, filter cap, connection, alternator body, and alternator cap and pulley. So I'll identify those as we go along in the video. This is the tubing for the oil hoses, and it has to be cut into 2 parts, a real short piece and a longer piece. I'm going to cut this a little bit later so I can do a visual measurement so they're not too long. So I'm going to hold off on that. That's the first step. They want you to cut it, one of them at 9 centimeter and the other one at 2.5 centimeter. But I like to visually do it instead. So we'll move on to the next step. Next we'll install the oil tube where you service the oil on the engine, and it has a cap, and that's just going to be a press to fit. we go. And that's what that looks like there. Very bright orange there. Very nice. So they want you to install the shorter hose on this to 2.5 centimeter hose. I'm going to leave that off for now. And I'm going to go ahead and install this to the engine. And it's going to get installed where the distributor is, the side where the distributor is. We have an alignment pin on the bottom there. You can see that, and it's going to simply just going to line up on the bottom, and we're going to put a screw on top, a DM screw on top. And the DM screw is installed. It's right there. And we'll go ahead and hook up our hose next, see where that goes to. Next, I'm going to assemble the alternator. We're going to put this cap on. It's just a pressure fit. Okay, just like that. That's how that looks. And we'll put our pulley on the front of that. And we'll put a BP screw on that to hold it in place. Now, you want it to look like a pulley, right? So that's the way you need to turn it over. So it looks like a pulley just like that. Alright, the BP screw is installed right there. Now we're going to go ahead and mount this to the engine. Bring over the engine. And it's going to mount onto those two holes right there. One is for the alignment pin, the other one is for the screw. So that's going to go in just like that. And we'll put our screw into that. That's going to be a DM screw for that. Alright, I installed the DM screw to hold the alternator in place. Don't over tighten that screw, as you could actually split the plastic on the part. So just do it till it's snug. Make sure it's flush mounted against the block, the engine block, and it looks good. We'll move on to the next step. Next, I'll assemble the oil filter and cap, and that once again is just a press fit. That's how that looks. And we'll assemble some of the connectors onto this. Now, these connectors are to be just the one connector, I believe. It's on a sprue. Okay, it's on a tree already. So don't take it off the tree. Go ahead and put it in place and then cut it off so you don't lose it. It's a little tight going in, so I think I'm going to make the hole a little larger and I'll super glue it in place. So I just take an X-Acto blade here and make the hole a little larger. And then I'm going to take some glue. Actually, I'm not even going to use super glue. I'm going to use regular glue. And press fit that in place. Okay, good. There it is. A little closer view of that. There you go. Now I'm going to install the mount bracket for this, and it's going to line up like that. Okay, there's 4 tabs that it lines up to, and we'll put a screw in to hold it all in place. So that's a BP screw. There we go. That looks good there. Just snug. That's how that bracket looks. So remember, this is our oil filter. Now they want me to install a line on that, but I'm going to hold off because I want to measure it. So next is this bracket, and it looks like a press fit for that. All right. All right, so this bracket here gets mounted down on top of the engine block. I'll go ahead and do that. Then I'll install the oil filter on top of that. Alright, so to install that bracket, you need to put in 2 AM screws, and I found that it's easier to get the thread started first before you mount the bracket on there. So you can see that I got the thread started here and the thread started on that hole. Now I can go ahead and mount the bracket. Okay, so I have the bracket mounted now. Right there. I left the screws loose a little bit so the bracket's loose. Now I'll take the oil filter and mount that to the bracket. And we're going to put another AM screw on top of there. And now I can tighten down all 3. There we go. Okay, there's the oil filter installed. Looks good. So my oil line running from the filter to the engine block is 81.3 millimeter. I went ahead and hooked up the oil line for the oil filter off that connector we glued on, so it got connected right there. Ran through this bracket along the side and mounted to the side of the engine, and I used super glue for that. Okay, and next was the oil filter tube. Has like a drain tube, and it's real short. I believe that tube hooks up to the carburetor filter inlet, and it's a short tube, but I went ahead and glued the whole thing on there so I can cut it later. And there you go, that completes stage 7. Did a lot here to the engine. It's looking good. Let's head over and get started on stage 8. Here's the parts for stage 8. And it looks like we received the engine front cover, the crankshaft pulley, water pump, fan, belt, and exhaust pipe. Let's get a closer look at the parts. Here's a close-up of those parts. We have DP and DM screws, the front engine cover, which is made of metal, the fan, water pump, exhaust pipe, belt, and pulleys. Alright, we're going to go ahead and work on the pulley, the crankshaft pulley. And this one right here is the flat one with 2 tabs. That's going to go right down on that shaft. And then above it, I'm going to press fit the other one on that. Good. So it looks like they only go on one way. So if it doesn't want to go together, then turn it over, turn it around 180 to get it to fit. Now we can do that there. And a DM screw goes into that. And the DM screw is installed. It's tight. That's how that looks. Now we're going to go ahead and mount the water pump to the front of the engine. Install that just like that. There's an alignment pin that goes into, and we're going to put a DM screw in it right there. And that DM screw is installed. Looks good. Next we're going to go ahead and assemble the pulley, and that's going to mount to that. Like that, and then like that. That's how that went together. Stacked down on top of each other and onto the shaft, just like that. And you can see that. Next we'll put our fan on that, and that will line up the two holes for that. That's good there. And a DP screw will go into that. And that's tight. That's good there. DP screw is in. Looking good. They want me to install the exhaust pipe next, but since I'm going to go ahead and install that after I install the front of the engine. Okay, so the front of the engine, there's an alignment pin that goes into that hole. We'll put that in. There we go. Make sure it snaps in. And a DM screw will go into that. And that's nice and tight. That looks good. Go ahead and put my exhaust on next. And that's just a pressure fit. So they are in. It probably would not hurt to throw some glue on that. Maybe later. There's not much movement there. I think it wouldn't hurt to put the glue onto that connector right there. So just a little bit of glue on there. A little extra thin, won't hurt. Looks good. And I think the last thing we have to do is put on the belt. Alright, so the fan belt is installed. I made sure it wasn't twisted in any way. So I installed it around the fan. Then I ran it down to the crankshaft and then over to the generator. Here you go. And there you go. That completes stage 8. Looks great. We did a lot here. Looks fantastic. Let's go over and get started on stage 9, which is the chassis. Next I'll work on the chassis for stage 9. So it was nicely protected in this box. We'll go ahead and pull it out. Get a view of it protected in the bubble wrap or the blister pack here. Take the cover off and of course the little identifier saying this is stage 9, and pull the chassis out. Nicely painted in that North African sand yellow that the British used on their vehicles. And very nice here. Very cool. And we don't actually do anything in this stage. We just receive the part. So let's go ahead and head over to stage 10 and get started there. Here's the parts for stage 10. We're going to install these bumperettes, which go on the back end of the chassis, and we received some straps for the jerry cans. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. Here's the bumperettes, and they get mounted on the back end of the chassis. 2 of them. We have some DM screws that are also painted in the sand yellow, and the straps for the jerry cans. They look very good. So with these bumperettes, you want to make sure you position them in the right direction. So you want to have that edge that sticks up facing upwards towards the top, okay, for both of them. DM screws will go into that from the other side. Alright, both bumperettes were installed. Use the DM screws on the back side here on each side. That's how that looks. So that completes stage 10, and I'll go ahead and take and put the straps away for safekeeping, and we'll continue on with building the transmission assembly for stage 11. And here's the parts for stage 11. These contain the machine gun mount plate, the gearbox support, casing A and casing B, transmission shaft cap, parking brake drum cover, parking brake drum, and oil plug, plus the screws. CP, DM, and FM screws, and all the parts I described earlier. I'll tell you what they are as I install them onto the chassis. Here they are. Everything here is made of plastic. This is not, this is metal, but the rest are all plastic here. First thing I'm going to do is install the engine mount, and that simply just goes down right there on the cross member of the chassis. We're going to put 2 CP screws in on this from the bottom, and both CP screws are installed, and that's what it looks like from that side. Now we'll go ahead and install the gearbox support. That's that metal part. Alright, so our transmission mount is going to go onto this cross member. We want this part with the tab to face in the direction of the machine gun mount, just like that. And we're going to put a screw in from the other side. It should be an FM screw. Alright, that transmission mount has been installed with the FM screw, and that's what that looks like. Alright, we're going to go ahead and assemble our gearbox casings. Now we want to make sure that these flanges, the caps, are installed correctly. You want to have this one kind of lined up with the casting there, and the top one will line up with the top half, and then you want to have the flat edge facing down, and these get inserted in square notches there. Okay, and then we'll put the other half on. Just like that. That's how that looks. See how that kind of lines up there? And then we'll put our 2 CP screws into this to hold everything together. That's good there. That's how that looks. How everything lines up. Next we'll assemble the parking brake drum and cap, and that's what that looks like. And we'll put that together. And again, 2 CP screws go into that. And there we go. That is the parking brake drum. And we're going to install that onto our gearbox. And that's simply just going to go down on this. And once again, another CP screw goes into that. And there's a little play there, which is good. All right. Looks great. Next, I have this oil plug, and it's going to get inserted into that hole right there. So I need to cut it off. And it's going to be a press fit. There we go. Snapped in place, and that's how that looks. Now mount this to our transmission mount. I'll bring that over. Just like that. And this is going to mount like that. Okay, so we have this tab there. We're going to put a DM screw into that. The DM screw is tight. Turn it over, and that's how it looks. And there you go. That completes stage 11. Looking good. Let's head over and get started on stage 12. Here's the parts for stage 12. We'll be working on the front left leaf spring. Let's get a closer look. Okay, so here's the CM screws, and here's our leaf spring. Very nice. And some of the hangers, mounting shackles, and such. Work on the left side first here, and this hanger is going to mount down just like that with the openings towards the front of the bumper. 2 CM screws will hold that in place. And that leaf spring hanger is installed and tight. Looks good. I'll go ahead and do the back one next. That's this right here. It's going to mount down on top. Again, 2 more CM screws. Okay, so when installing this hanger, you want it to be flush on the outside of the frame, and you want it to hang over on the inner side of the frame. You can kind of see that. Next, I'm going to install the leaf spring C-hinge. And you'll note that one side is longer than the other, so you want the long one on the bottom. So that goes through both holes, just like that. And then later on, you're going to install your leaf spring. The side with the larger hole is going to insert onto the top there a little bit later. Now a CM screw will hold that in, but first we want to have our hanger here oriented like that, where it's kind of going inward. Okay, and you want it to be loose, but you can see how that is configured there. Okay, so now we'll take our leaf spring, the larger end, that will go on that, and our hanger for that will match up to it. Yeah, CM screw goes into that, and just leave it loose a little bit. That's good. We'll leave that loose, and that's how that looks. And then we'll mount the back end. So our spring went down on the back hanger, and it's going to get mounted just like that. However, this one here, this bracket here is going to go over the top and it's going to face inward. Same thing on the outside. We want it to be outward like that. Get that screw started on the outside. There we go. Both of them are installed. That's how that should look. And the left leaf spring is installed. That completes stage 12. Let's head over and do stage 13. And here we are, the final stage for Pack 2, stage 13. And this is the right hand leaf spring. Let's get a closer look. CM and GM screws, and here's the right leaf spring, very nice, and the hangers and brackets for that. I'm just gonna go ahead and assemble everything and show you what I did, because we actually did the same thing on the other side. There's some minor differences because we only have one of these brackets compared to the other side. We actually had 3 of them. But the ones on the back, obviously we won't be installing those. That's a little bit different. They don't have brackets for the back hanger. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so the front hanger is the same as the front hanger on the left side. So I used the 2 CM screws, paid attention to the bracket, just like I did before. And now we're going to go ahead and install the back end, but we don't have any brackets that go on that, so we're going to use one of these real long GM screws for that, for the back end. It needs to thread through, it looks like. So we'll thread it through. Do that. Thread it all the way through, make sure it's okay, and then back it out and insert it. Longer GM screw there. There we go. Thread it all the way through. It should thread through to the other side. And lock in. There we go. And it did. See it on the other side there. And that's good. And that's the spring on the right side. And there you go. That completes Pack 13. We installed the right hand front spring, leaf spring. And that's how that looks. Looks great. I'll be right back. And there you have it. That completes Pack 2 for the British SAS Willy's Jeep. Remember, you can only find this at Agora Models. I'll put a direct link down below in the description. But it's actively available as a subscription, so subscribe to it today. It's a fantastic Jeep. We did a lot here on the chassis. It's looking good. And of course, we pretty much completed the engine here, so that looks great. Okay, so stay tuned for Pack 3. I know it is on its way in the mail, and when I get it, I'll build that up. Thank you all who Subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. Until the next pack, happy modeling and take care.